Hello and welcome. My name is Jess and you're listening to Legaltini, your very own sip of law school. The goal of this podcast is to give you just a taste of what it's like going to law school. Whether you're already in school, considering it, have a loved one currently experiencing the fun that is law school, or you just want to follow my journey, I'm so glad you're here.
You can also follow me on Instagram at legaltini_podcast and check out my website legaltini.com. And if you enjoy the podcast, don't forget to rate and review below.
Grab your Legaltini and let's take a sip. Good morning and welcome back to Legaltini. Whew, I am back after a sort of small hiatus, not too long, but we are halfway through the semester and 1 week away from spring break. And in this episode, I want to focus on a topic that is really extremely foundational to me. The importance of revisiting your why statement, not just writing it for the first time, but using it as a tool later. So as I am reflecting on my journey so far in law school, I realize that my why statement has really been a guiding force for me, and it's helped me to stay focused on my goals and motivate me to push me through harder times during the process. And for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with this concept, a why statement is just a statement that captures your purpose or your cause or your belief, and it outlines the reasons why you get out of bed every morning and what sort of drives you to pursue your goals. So your why statement is a really important tool that can help you stay centered and focused on what really matters. And when I think about a reset or sort of coming back to my core focus, I always first take inventory of where I am right now. And usually I write these things down so I can see it all on the page. Sometimes I just run through things in my mind, but the reason I like writing them down is that once you put it down on paper and look at it, you can sort of hold it in your hands. Like it's less of these big ideas that are stressful and sort of overwhelming, and I just feel this tension and pressure around me. Once I write it down and I'm like, okay, I can drill this down into 6 things or, 10 things that I'm stressed about right now, or just concepts in my life that are sort of adding tension or adding pressure, I can say, okay, each of these things has a silver lining. Each of these things has something that's going to ultimately benefit me, or they're just not that big and scary, or they are, and here's how I need to be getting support in these things. So writing it down is really a key part for me because it helps me to visualize and know that I sort of have it all on one page. It's all encompassed here. It's not these looming, lurking, scary things that are sort of out there and unnamed and kind of waiting to pounce on me. It's right here. I know what I'm stressed about. I understand it. It's valid. And now I can move forward. So here's how it's going lately. I have like 6 or 7 observations that I've made about my life lately. And it's not good. It's not bad. It's just observations. So I try to just write things down and think about kind of making a list of all the things that are sort of adding pressure or adding stress or just observations that I'm making about the way that I'm kind of moving through life right now. So number 1, and this one came out real quick, I'm tired all the time, which is obviously to be expected. And I do prioritize sleep. I generally get between 7 and 8 hours per night. And anybody who knows me personally knows that I value sleep so much and I can't really function without sleep. So it's not that I'm not getting sleep. It's just that when you're packing this much into your days and into your brain, you're going to be both mentally and physically exhausted. Just going to happen, just going to be how it is. So in observing this about myself, I'm not like chastising myself and saying I need to sleep more. I'm just recognizing and saying, okay, I'm just going to be tired in this season of my life because I'm trying to do so much. So that's fine. Number 2, I do find that I have more confidence in my system, specifically with school, because I know that if I passed my first semester doing this, I can pass my second semester. And though these classes are a little bit different and I'm having to adjust a little bit how I approach them and how I study for them and how I prepare for them, I do find that because I've done it once, now I feel a little bit more like, okay, the worst case scenario of failing is off the table now. And so I'm able to sort of take away that fear and then focus on, okay, it's just the grind of getting it done right now. The third observation is that it's helpful to go back and talk to old professors if you made a great connection with them last semester or a prior semester. It feels a little bit more like you're going to visit like a supportive friend more than a professor that you're sort of trying to impress and sort of trying to get on their good side. And they really just sort of reassure you, or they help you get on the right track again if you have that trusting, almost friendship with them. And if you don't have that, I would work on doing that with your current professors and going to their office hours and just connecting with them. And that way, next semester or in subsequent semesters, you will have that dynamic, supportive relationship with them. So when you do go to office hours with your professor for classes, keep in mind that you're building a relationship with them that hypothetically should last for, at least the few years of law school, but also potentially after that. So keep that in mind, that you're building relationships with your professors, not just getting the information you need for an exam. Granted, not all professors are created equal, so, not every professor is going to be this great connection for you. So, it doesn't have to be all of them. Just try to find at least one or two or something that you can sort of use as a resource later in your career. The fourth thing is that I'm realizing my reading this semester is taking longer than last semester. So it's just taking a little bit longer to prepare for each class, which is a timing adjustment. I'm also trying to read a supplement book for each class on the topics that I don't feel clear on, so that might be part of that added reading time, but it does feel like just that core, the assigned pages for each class is taking a little bit longer. And maybe I am just not jiving as much with these topics as I was last semester, and so it's a little bit more like I'm treading through deeper water to get to the core subject and to kind of understand it, or it's just more pages and it's just longer. Either way, it's taking me a little bit longer to prepare for each class, so I've had to make timing adjustments. So I'm getting up a little bit earlier in the morning to make sure that I can knock out all of my reading and sort of get a jump on the day, and I am having to read later into the evenings. But I'm just remembering that that's a season, and I'm remembering that means that I'm prepared for class, and so I'll get more out of the class, and then it will be easier to study later. So it all makes sense. It's fine. It's just an observation. The fifth one is that applying for jobs and prepping for and going to interviews is both time consuming, which I already knew that it was going to be time consuming, but it's also mentally a ton of work, because if you're writing a new cover letter for each job, you're deciding whether you want to apply at all, you're preparing for an interview, all of those steps take significant research because you want to be thoughtful at each of those steps. So when you're writing a cover letter, you want to have information about that company that you're using in your cover letter to show that you've done your due diligence and this is actually a company you really want to work for. That helps when you're writing a cover letter, or rather when they're reading it, it helps them to feel like, okay, this person's genuinely interested, so that's helpful. And then when you're actually deciding if you want to apply, you have to know that this company or firm or, whoever it is, that they have something to offer you that is what you want to do. And then preparing for an interview obviously takes a bunch of effort as well. You have to research the person that you're interviewing with. Sometimes you're interviewing with multiple people. It just takes a lot of digging and information gathering, which just takes time, and mentally it takes a lot of work. For example, I had an interview process recently where I interviewed with no fewer than 7 people, and it was so exhausting. I felt like I was back in sorority recruitment where you're like, hi, so-and-so, let me introduce you to so-and-so. We've just been talking about such and such. And you have to just be so on. And so I repeated myself so much. I had to tell the same stories again. And, sometimes the same person who had already heard that story was still there. And so I'd be like, as I just told you, and I'm so sorry you have to hear this again, here's why I decided to go to law school. And you have to just kind of be able to duck and dive with the punches. Is that an expression? Duck and dive? roll with the punches. There's something to that. I can't remember the expression. As I said, I'm tired. But, you have to just kind of be able to roll with the punches and like be okay with some chaos there. And maybe that's part of what they're looking for, is that you can kind of handle like complex social situations and where you're having to sort of entertain multiple people at once, and you're having to kind of make everybody in the room feel included in your answer. And I mean, that's just like, that's challenging normally, but when you're tired and when you're nervous, like, oh my gosh, I was nervous. And I feel like I'm a pretty like seasoned interviewer. I've done a lot of interviewing, but because I was nervous, I felt like, I don't know, it was a different experience, and it was exhausting. And I left and came home I had to go directly to class afterwards, and I was so exhausted, and I just felt like, oh my gosh, my brain is so scrambled. And I don't know, I mean, that's just what we have to do. And that's just the name of the game. But it is a necessary evil because, of course, we really, want to get summer internships, and that's an important piece of the law school journey. And it can be very frustrating because you apply to all these places just to get ghosted by most of the places that you apply. And it is hard. It's really hard out here doing this application process. But the important thing is to remember is that you just need one, right? Like just one company has to respond. Just one place has to give you an offer. So the more you apply to places, the more that those odds turn in your favor. It is stressful. It's time consuming, but you just have to kind of grind through it and do it. But that's just something I've observed. Okay, the sixth thing is reaching out to my close friends has been incredibly rewarding. Even if I don't actually connect with them for like a catch up, if I don't have time for a phone call, just sending like a quick voice memo being like, hey, here's how my week's going, how are you? Or a quick just like, I miss you so much kind of a text has been really uplifting for me. And even just sending that out to someone makes me feel really great because I feel like I'm reconnecting, and I feel like I'm being a good friend to them. And I'm just like kind of continuing to foster friendships that I really cherish, and it means a lot to me. And so I've realized that simple act, it just takes a couple seconds to send a text, has really helped me kind of mentally and emotionally to feel like, okay, there are people out there that I know that love me and are thinking of me and know what my struggles are. And so that's been really important to me. And I don't think maybe I did know that about myself, but I think it's been just really important this semester for whatever reason. Okay, last one is that as the weather gets nicer, I feel more energized, and this is so exciting because, oh man, it is hard to start studying in the dark and then finish studying in the dark. Oh my gosh, like it just makes the days feel like just so long and dark. So I have really been enjoying the weather, kind of having a few days, like we've had some days here where it's 70 degrees outside and gorgeous. And of course it drops down in the next few days, and the weather kind of has gone up and down a lot. But on those nice days, I feel so much better emotionally. And I don't know, that's been like really revitalizing for me. And I'm looking forward to having some more sort of sunshine hours each day that I can actually enjoy while not studying, but also getting to study outside just makes me happy. And getting to take like little breaks outside where you're just soaking up the sun and the vitamin D, it's fabulous. So those are some of my observations that I've made this semester. And that's just kind of an example of how I identify things that I'm just feeling or that are adding pressure to my life, or I'm just observing about my life. And I'm just writing them down and considering them and thinking about the silver lining and thinking about kind of how they interact with each other and what they mean for each other. And so it just helps. It just helps me to kind of diagnose everything and take inventory of how things have been going. And as I reread my why statement recently, I realized that I've sort of been dragging through the semester and feeling somewhat burned out with the longer readings and more hours at the library. But rereading what I wrote out at the beginning of the year, or not even at the beginning of the 2023 year, but the school year. So back in, the end of the summer, early fall, as I've been rereading that, it's so helpful to me. It really reminded me that I chose this, that I'm capable of this. I've already been so successful in what I'm trying to do and planning to do, which is to remain balanced and keep perspective and just do my very best because that's what I can do. So revisiting your why statement can also help you gain clarity and perspective, especially when you're feeling a little bit lost or uncertain. It can remind you of your values and your strengths, your passions, and help you to just keep making the decisions that align with those things. So in summary, I strongly encourage everyone to just take some time to revisit your why statement. If you don't have a why statement, go ahead and write one. That's a really fun exercise as well. Just gets you to sort of reflect and think about what matters to you, which is such a great thing to think about. And it just helps you to gain a deeper understanding of your motivation and your values. And that in turn can lead to, greater direction in your personal and professional life. So revisiting that and doing it regularly can help you to sort of stay aligned with those goals and priorities. And it can provide a powerful source of motivation when you're in a challenging time. I have definitely had days where I'm feeling beat down and I just reread my statement. It's like one paragraph long. And by the time that I get to the end of it, I'm already feeling a little bit more like, okay, get it together. You've got this. You're capable. You're doing this for a reason. All the things that you have in your why statement sort of pick you back up. And when you're writing it, you want to keep those times in mind. What am I going to need to hear when I am really feeling sort of like I'm pulling myself up by my bootstraps? What am I going to need to hear in that time? And by taking time to kind of engage in that sort of an exercise, you really, you can drive your purpose and your fulfillment in your daily life. And so it just helps. It's a small but powerful exercise, and it really can help you stay focused and motivated and fulfilled and feel like you're kind of working towards something bigger than just the grind of every day feeling exhausted and feeling like you're putting in so much effort. So that's what I have for you guys today. Short one, but I just wanted to get on and say the why statement thing can be so powerful, and it's really been instrumental for me and helpful to revisit it and make some observations, kind of come back to a neutral space and take charge for the second half of the semester. So I am excited about that, and I will keep you guys posted on how everything's going. Thank you so much for listening, as always. I love doing this. It's really fun for me, and it kind of is a therapy session for myself, honestly. So whether you're following along for, being a potential law student, or just because you know me and you're trying to follow along on my journey, hey mom. But either way, I'm grateful that you're here and that you're listening and that you're thinking about your why statement. That's just so important and exciting for you. Don't forget to subscribe down below and tell me what you think about the episode and tell me what you'd like to hear. Thanks so much for listening. This has been Legaltini, your very own sip of law school.